I went to Chincoteague Island and Assateague Island in Virginia. The reason I wanted to go there is because when I was in elementary school, we read this book called Misty of Chincoteague, which was about a wild pony that lives on an island, and it's a real place, and I wanted to go there. I've always wanted to see this place. So I asked my brother if he wanted to go. He said yes, and then the next week we were off. Drove down there. We arrived on a Monday. We stayed 2 nights and left on a Wednesday. So we got there like Monday afternoon. The place we were staying was like on the main drag, which was Maddox Boulevard. And it just seemed to be close, like within walking distance to several restaurants, ice cream parlors, little tourist shops, that sort of thing. So when we arrived, we unpacked a little bit, nothing fancy, but perfectly clean. And then we went to get lunch. So we stopped by a taco place that was down the street from where we were staying. The people running it were really cool, very friendly. Something I remember was that the owner was like chatting us up quite a bit, even though a line was forming behind us, which didn't seem to faze him at all. He just was curious about who we are, where we're from. That was such a cool sort of like intro to the island, because I really got the impression there everybody is just really relaxed. They take their time, no need to rush with anything. And then we decided to walk that street a little more. My brother was particularly interested in a jerky shop. So we stopped in there and they sold jerky of all kinds. It seemed like the interior of the average male's mind on like a dating app when they're like holding a fish or a dead animal of some sort. Then we walked some more on the street. There was this cute little like farmer's market shop that I liked, that I popped into. I wanted some ice cream, so we went into one of the ice cream parlors on the street. Didn't really like it. It kind of tasted like melted plastic. Wasn't. And then I later found out one of the best ice cream parlors in the country was right next door. So that was a wasted stop. I did go to the other ice cream place on the last day though. So then we decided to drive around the island to get a feel for it. There are a lot of like neighborhoods on the island, so it seems like maybe people retire there, get like a vacation home there, and I think that would be a really great place because it's so chill. We also went looking for this marina because the next day we had already pre-booked a boat tour to go see the wild ponies on Assateague Island. So we went to get a feel for where this marina was, where we would have to get the boat. And while we were there, we saw a bunch of people fishing. They were all super friendly. They were also catching like, you know, crabs and stingrays and stuff. It was cool. And everybody was, you know, friendly. We ended up meeting this Filipino-American guy named Max who had retired and just moved to the island. Super friendly. I was chatting with Max quite a bit and realized my brother had wandered off somewhere. Max helped me look for my brother.
He can't go far because I have the car keys.
Steven. Steven.
And then, you know, we eventually found him, and Max asked me, oh, can I join you on the boat tour tomorrow? Because he had just moved there and he hadn't actually done that yet. So we were like, yeah, sure, because we had hired a private boat, which meant we could take up to 6 people on it, and it was just gonna be my brother and me, so we still had room for more. And then we just split the cost with Max. Then the next morning, my brother and I get up and we head out, and like as soon as we head out, we just like bump into Max on the street. And then we went to a food truck to get breakfast. And we were there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And it turns out, at least in early June, a lot of restaurants are not open those days. Because they're busy over the weekend, so they take those few days off. So we had like pretty limited food options where we were there. We were fine, we got fed, it was just limited. So if you're planning a trip, consider the opening hours of the places on the island to see if you're cool with that. Anyway, then we headed to the boat, and this was the highlight of the trip when we took this boat tour to Assateague Island. We, like I said before, we had a private boat. A lot of the boat companies are bigger boats, and they can have like a dozen or more people on board, and you pay per person, and it might be like $50 a person, let's say. I decided I wanted to do a private boat. At least the time we did it was $240 for the private boat. And the reason was because you can then customize the tour to what you want to see, as opposed to it being a set tour to see set things on the tour. We went with this guy called Captain Mike, and he asked us, like, what do you want to see today? Like, what kind of wildlife do you want to see? What kind of nature do you want to see? And we told him, and he was like, cool. And that's exactly what he did. It worked out really, really well, because on that particular day, there were a lot of ponies out, and that's exactly why I went to the island. I just wanted to see the wild ponies. So we had to like go across this bay, I think, to get to Assateague Island from Chincoteague. And oh my God, there were like so many ponies out that day. We just got a huge show. Also, like, I didn't know this, there are different bands of ponies that live on the island. So a band is like a small group of ponies, and usually they're led by a stallion, and that one stallion is sort of like the alpha male of the band. So the first band that we saw was Riptide's band. Riptide being the stallion. Saw him, saw his band, mares, foals, whatever. And then because we were on a private tour, and because the boat was smaller, we could go more into the inlets and see like more of what was going on. And then we saw two more bands of wild ponies. One was Legacy's band, and the other was Beach Boys band. Okay, and like the Captain Mike said that this was extremely unusual, because normally the terrain, like the land that they were on, was usually just one of the band's terrain, and the other would be somewhere else. And it was extremely unusual that they would both be on that land at the same time. And then Beach Boy and Legacy were sort of like crossing each other and like, you know, neighing, like, you know, and sort of like making a fuss. And Captain Mike was wondering if they might fight, but they ended up not fighting, not in front of us at least. But it was really interesting, and even he was taking photos of this because he said it was just so unusual to see them out. And he said we just got extremely lucky, because the previous tours that he had done that day, and I think the previous days, they really just did not see many ponies out, like maybe a couple. So we saw like dozens of them. It was so cool. So I was really happy with my pony tour. And then afterwards, we went back to rest, we got some lunch, and then we decided to head over to Assateague Island to check it out. We drove over to Assateague, so there's a bridge you can drive to get from Chincoteague to Assateague Island. It's pretty much all nature. As soon as we got onto Assateague Island, we saw a small group of ponies just waiting by the side of the road, and a bunch of people had pulled over to take photos of them. And then we, drove onto the island some more, and we decided to park and go on the beach for a while. That seemed like a really cool spot. It wasn't crowded at all. Like, there were people there, there was activity there. it looked like everybody was having fun and enjoying themselves, but it was not busy. So that was super cool. And then we got back into the car and decided to find a trail to go hiking, which we did. And we did a quaint hike. It felt a bit like maybe I was back in the George Washington times, you know, because he was in the area. We did this hike, which it turns out is actually really good for bird watching. And, you know, we just like hung out on the hike. We found this like gazebo thing. I don't know, it was like some raised platform, I guess, to help with the bird watching. So we hung out there for a little bit, went back to the car, drove around some more, and then went back to Chincoteague. And then it was time for dinner, and that was a bit of a challenge because it was a Tuesday evening, and there was like, we wanted seafood. That's what we wanted. And there was only like one restaurant open on Tuesday evening that was a seafood restaurant. So we went there, and what I will say is that the actual seafood was very fresh and very good. But the other food that came with it was just, like kind of forgettable, right? So it was like, they didn't really care about the flavor of anything else. Like maybe their intention was to let the seafood flavors, like the flavors of the fish or the flavors of the shrimp or whatever, crab, whatever, stand out on their own. We don't want to get in the way, and I respect that. But the food was very forgettable. Kind of expensive and forgettable. And the next morning we got up, checked out, explored a little bit more of like the downtown area, which is like so tiny. But I mean, it's enough, you know, it's tiny. And then that's when I heard about this ice cream place that was basically next door to where we were staying. So I went over there and I got some ice cream, my brother got some ice cream, and it was a very creamy ice cream. It was very good. And I was very pleased to have had that before I left. I would highly recommend this creamery. And then we left the island, and then we headed to the Wallops NASA Center, whatever it's called, flight center, I think, right off the island on the mainland. We checked that out. It's free. You just like walk in and you can take in whatever, you know, they've got. They explain what they do at that specific NASA center and how they do it, and it's interesting. But what I'll say is that me being the sociolinguist, I was more curious about like what they wrote up about their work. And I noticed that all of it was in English, but some of it was also in Spanish. And I was wondering, why is only some of this bilingual and not all of it bilingual? It just struck me. I was like, some of this is inclusive, but not all of it's inclusive. That's like what happens when you study sociolinguistics and then you go see an exhibit and you're like, you're just like not paying attention to what it's actually about, and you're like distracted by these details. I would probably have to go back online and review some of it to remember what it actually said though. And then we just like got in the car and we drove back home. So overall, this was a very nice little excursion. I highly recommend a visit to Chincoteague Island and Assateague Island. Would I go back? For sure. Do I need to rush back over there? No. I think it would be cool to go in late July, because the last Thursday of July of every year there's a pony swim and a pony auction. So what they do is they round up all the ponies on Assateague Island and they have them swim in the water across to Chincoteague Island, and then they have them like trot down the main street and tons of people come to watch this. And then all of the ponies that were born in the last year, they get auctioned off at this time because they have to control the pony population on the island. So 90% of the ponies get auctioned off, and they are sold to people, and they're just taken wherever those people want them to go. And then 10% of the ponies get to stay on the island, but they're also auctioned off. People basically pay to have the fire department on the island take care of those ponies. So yeah, tons of people show up just to watch the swim and the auctions, but a lot of people also come because they want to buy one of these ponies to take back with them, or to be, I guess, like part of the story of like, yes, we have a wild pony on Assateague Island. It's like part of their portfolio or whatever. But I guess if you have the money, why not, right? If that's what you like. Anyway, it was a cool trip. Do it if you feel like it. And let me know if you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos about language, culture, and travel, just hit subscribe. If you liked this one in particular, you can hit like. It'll help other people find the video and the channel. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.